There's a lot online about how there's virtually no difference between the Insta360 X4 and the Insta360 X3. So naturally, there are loads of people who are unsure whether the upgrade from the X3 to the X4 is actually worth it. And I'd have to disagree that there isn't a difference between the two. In my opinion, I do see a difference, but the question is whether the difference is worth the $100 upgrade from the X3 to the X4. So if quality is what matters to you, then only you can really determine whether that price difference between the two is actually worth it. And later on in the video, I'll give you my opinion on whether I think that that $100 difference is actually worth it or not. And before anyone asks in the comments, this video isn't sponsored by Insta360. This is just my opinion based on how I see the footage and how I've used both of the cameras in the same situations and just seen the results for myself. So there's no doubt that the biggest upgrade between these two cameras is the video quality. The Insta360 X3 only shoots up to 5.7K and the X4 shoots up to 8K in 360 mode. And when you're exporting the footage from the X4, when you've shot in 8K, then you can export up to 4K and have decent quality footage. Whereas when you shoot with the Insta360 X3, then your export is going to be 1080p. So to me, I can 100% see a difference in the video quality between the two in the 360 mode and in single lens mode. Single lens mode on the X3 is 1080 and on the X4 it's 4K. But I do think that there is a difference between the quality of the footage between the two cameras in that single lens mode as well. In terms of dynamic range, I think the X4 does have better colours and it's a lot clearer and it looks less processed. If you're comparing the 5.7K footage across both cameras, so this is 5.7K in the X3 and in the X4, then the image quality is still better in the X4 with richer colours and less processing. To me, I do think it just looks better in the X4. When you look at the footage on a smaller screen, like on a phone, then the difference is less noticeable, but I do think it's still there. But I think this really does depend on where you primarily post most of your footage. So if it's more on YouTube doing long form horizontal videos, or whether it's on Instagram, for example, or TikTok where you're doing more short form and you're just doing vertical videos, then the difference in seeing the footage on the phone in vertical format is just really, it's not massive, but it's very slightly there. Also, in terms of the sharpness settings, when you shoot in low on the Insta360 X4, then it comes out a lot softer than if you shoot in low on the X3. So with the X4, I tend to actually put my sharpness to medium because it doesn't look too like over processed or crunchy. Whereas if you put it to medium on the X3, then it just looks too much. It's just too over processed. That's just a little thing that I remembered. When it comes to low light, I wouldn't really use either of these in low light situations because they're not that great for low light. But what I will say is though that the X4 does do slightly better in low light situations. It comes out better exposed. I mean, it's very marginal. It's just not as dark as the X3. It smells new. There's very little difference in the audio quality between the two. It's negligible. It's not really something that would be a deciding factor for me. However, the X4 can use a Bluetooth mic for direct connection, so it can use the DJI Mic 2 transmitter, whereas the X3 can't. But the Bluetooth audio doesn't really sound great anyway from the X4, so I wouldn't necessarily use it with the X4. And if I was going to want to have external audio, I'd just use the adapter and a mic plugged into the camera and get my audio that way, or just record the audio separately to a transmitter and then just sync the audio up later in post. So that's just something that you do with either of the cameras anyway. So in that respect, I don't see the X4 as being any better than the X3. So like I said earlier, the X4 is $100 more than the X3. So the current price of it is $499.99, whereas the X3 is $399.99, and that's just for the standard bundle set. So I place a lot of value on the quality of footage. It's one of those things that's always at the top of my list, along with convenience and ease of use and that kind of thing. But quality is really a high bar for me. And so since they're basically the same and there's no real features that differ that much, I look at them and I say to myself, is it worth the upgrade based on the quality between the two cameras? And for me, I would say yes, it's worth the upgrade, but If you're on a budget and you're happy with the X3, or you're looking at the footage of the X3 and you're thinking it actually doesn't look too bad and I'd be happy with that, and you don't think that the improvement is significant enough, then that's cool. It's a very subjective thing. But if you place a high value on quality, then the X4 is probably, and you have the budget for it, then the X4 is probably a good upgrade for you. So if you are leaning more towards the X4 and you just want to have a more in-depth review and just see what it is actually like to use, or if you're trying to decide between the Insta360 X4 and the DJI Osmo Action 4, or even the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 versus the Insta360 X4, then you can check out any of these videos next.